In 2019, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announced that he was ready to open an official tourist zone in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant area. But why go to another country when you can also tickle your nerves in Moscow? The Russian capital city of 12 million inhabitants is among Russia's most radioactive zones. A third of the 65 especially hazardous production facilities are located in the capital. We have armed ourselves with a dosimeter and found out where in Moscow you should not go and where you should not stay. We found radiation signs in parks, underground passages, and even near the Kremlin walls. In recent months, a wilderness area near Kolomenskoye Park has become very famous. Here, behind the fence of the Moscow polymetal plant, radiation levels exceed the norm dozens of times. If it were not for the intentions of the Moscow authorities to build a new highway, the Southeastern Cord Road, the general public may never have heard of the Kolomenskoye zone. Scientists were the first to sound the alarm. It is not difficult to find contaminated sites. They were fenced by employees of Radon, an organization that removes contaminated soil by stretching red and white ribbons. This is an extra marker for the curious. Even children can step over such a barrier. That's what they do. The iron fence on the phoned-out slope was installed only last week. Before that, there was a real pilgrimage of journalists, students of technical universities, and bored schoolchildren on vacation. Rubber gloves and masks were left near the hole with a strong background of 600 microroentgen per hour, Roentgen/hour. Someone has recently dug there. Activists look for radiation and brag to each other about the hotspots they have found, like fishermen do about their catch. Schoolchildren Hassan and Danila came here to look for treasure after watching a YouTube video. Most of all, they were interested in the question whether animals and insects could mutate in the area of the Kolomna burial ground. Seeing the prohibitory banners "No Passage" and "Radiation Everywhere," the guys took pictures against them and got a high dose of impressions. Wow, it's dangerous here. We said goodbye to them and moved on. We rustled because we had plastic bags over our shoes, just in case. This is the right thing to do. It is even better to wash your shoes so you don't bring the soil home, approves Andrei Ozarovsky, a nuclear physicist and expert of the program Safety of Radioactive Waste who comes here almost every day. He has been studying this slope for several years and has participated in all the hearings about the construction of the cord. We met during one of his excursions for fishermen with dosimeters. Despite the fact that the active elements are underground, this place poses a serious danger, believes Ozarovsky. Suppose a man went for a walk on a burial ground, stepped in a hole, and a few fractions of a gram stuck to his soles. At home, they got on the mat. Then the man swept the floor with a broom and inhaled that dust. So we get a scenario of radionuclides going in. The most dangerous thing is internal exposure. External exposure does not have such serious consequences, but you should not stay in that area for a long time anyway. If someone gets there, it is better to wash your shoes properly, with powder. And it is even better to wear rubber boots, they are much easier to wash. According to the scientist, all the most dangerous is inside the slope under the layer of clay. Gamma radiation, which picked up a simple household dosimeters, not the worst. There is alpha-active waste lying below. But if the cord construction work begins and they cut off part of the hill, the slope will go, the lower layers will be exposed. In this case, a real apocalypse awaits us, warns the physicist. Radon also has no doubts that the slope will go. Areas of radioactive contamination can be identified during excavation work, during construction of facilities, and laying of engineering communications, reads one of Radon's responses to a request for information from an activist. Now the dosimeter in most parts of the Kolomna zone records the natural radiation level of 20 microroentgen per hour. But near the soil, the alarm signal of our apparatus comes sharply to life. In pits and hollows under tree roots, the readings reach from 100 to 300 mcr/h. In one of such zones, our dosimeter ANRI 01-02 pine snapped 640 mcr/h, which exceeds natural indicator more than 30 times. But compared to the professional measurements taken here in April 2019, even this is nothing. At one of the sites, The Ministry of Emergency Situations recorded a dose comparable to that which a person who flew from Moscow to London 6 times in a row would receive. The act of the study is at the disposal of the editorial office. The soil was found to be contaminated with radioactive substances, 6,140 mcr/H. For 1 month in this point you can earn an average annual dose. Simultaneously with measurements of activists, FSUE radon is working here, but at a different pace. In the middle of the workday, only a lonely, bored-looking guard is on duty. Not far from the radon parking lot we find soil samples taken for research. They were bagged and labeled and left them there. It seems the bags have been there for several months, some of them were torn and scattered. The background from them is 100 to 200 mcr/H. Officially, the federal enterprise removes 15 cubic meters from here per year. 1 teaspoon per hour, complains Ozarovsky. They are doing a useful, important job, but only on the scale the Moscow government has paid them for. One can only guess at the size of the radioactive deposits in the depths of the Kolomna burial ground. Here, tens of thousands of tons of radioactive soil remain contaminated, and it is unrealistic to remove it from the soil. First of all, because it is very expensive. It is not possible to find out specific figures. The archives of the Moscow polymetal plant are classified. It seems strange that the plant initially set up a landfill right on the bank of the river. In those days, according to Andrei Ozarovsky, no one thought of such nuances. The site was created in the first half of the XX century. First of all, back then it was deep in the suburbs. Secondly, there were no such radiation safety standards as there are now. The attitude to waste was very frivolous. They were doing what other enterprises were doing, just throwing everything over the fence. These guys, working off or concentrates on Lavrenti Beria's orders, received tens of thousands of tons of waste and, due to misunderstanding, filled ravines with it. The company makes no secret of the fact that work related to the nuclear program was carried out here. It is not known exactly when this happened, but some crafty person decided, why does the plant need the waste? Rosatom gave the territory, Moscow accepted it, but they didn't have the smarts to hire a director, restore the fence, and do the work. Now, because of the increased interest in radiation, the territory is fenced off again. This will prevent curious people from getting in, but it is unlikely to hinder the construction of the cord. Just a week ago, activists discovered another nidus of contamination, with radiation of 170 mcr/H. It is located directly on the site of the future construction. To compare the background of the Kolomna zone with what hovers over the rest of Moscow, you can walk around the city with a dosimeter. Radiation in Moscow has been bumped into before. Now in the Bogorodskoye district, near Rokossovsky Boulevard, towers of the new microdistrict are rising. 10 years ago, rallies against the construction took place here. The investor of the construction excavated the underground burials. There were concrete structures that contained radioactive waste. All this was successfully removed. Now the place is clean. A household dosimeter cannot register more than 12 mcr/H. Near the nuclear plants, 25 mcr/H. The dosimeter is more readily at the largest nuclear power plants of Moscow. Near the Kurchatov Institute, the machine-building plant Molniya most often drops about 20 to 25 mcr/H, which is still within the normal natural background. Urban legends about elevated doses have long been circulating around the Kurchatov district of Shukino. 6 reactors work here. To make the local residents not worry, there is a tablet hanging at the main entrance, which displays the radiation readings at the plant's territory. Our dosimeter agrees with them. Research reactors are much less powerful than nuclear reactors, but they also produce radioactive waste and dangerous man-made radionuclides, which, in case of an accident, can get into the environment and then into the human body. Underground crossing, 34 mcr/H. In the passageway between Kursk Station and Zemlya-Noyval Street, the dosimeter beeped alarmingly and often, 34 mcr/H. The excess is minimal, but there are those who spend most of their time here, for example, vendors from trade pavilions. Subways, underpasses, and airports are not high radiation locations. Technogenic sources of radiation are medicine, nuclear power, fallout from nuclear tests, and radioluminescent goods. They account for 35% of the total radiation, with medicine accounting for 34%. Red Square is 67 mcr/h. Approaching Moscow's main square, one thinks not about micro-Roentgen, but about how not to get caught by the police. You and a weighty Soviet-made dosimeter Sosna look more than strange here. The paving stones are absolutely clean 10 to 15 mcr/h. However, when approaching the mausoleum, the signal sounds more frequently. Another installation is being erected on Red Square 35 mcr/h. On the granite steps near the Spasskaya Tower opposite the pass office at the main gate of the country, the dosimeter reads 67 mcr/h, 3 times the natural radiation dose. Some granite, sand, crushed stone and clay deposits are naturally radioactive. There were cases of exceeding of acceptable background due to granite on embankments in Moscow, near fireplaces, as well as in the office of the head of one organization due to a large granite table. Of these items, only the table or fireplace may pose a danger. At this level of radiation, negative health effects are possible only if one stays in close proximity for a long time. It is not necessary to live near a waste burial ground or a nuclear research institute in order for radiation to penetrate into the apartment. The danger to residents can be posed by much more innocuous-looking things. People who live in concrete and brick buildings or next door to medical facilities that use X-rays are at risk of increased radiation exposure. Contrary to popular myths, the television set, computer and microwave oven are not radioactive sources. Owners of antique items with glowing paint, old dinner sets, green glassware, old Christmas toys and even watches with glow-in-the-dark hands that once contained radioactive isotopes to make them glow are at risk. If there are questions about the room, it is advisable to make competent measurements with experts. According to Sanpayan, the safety standard in the apartment is calculated as the background radiation level in the open area plus 0.2 microsievert per hour, 20 micro-Roentgen. For Moscow, the norm is 0.30 to 0.32 microsieverts per hour, 30 to 32 micro-Roentgen/hour. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. Give it a thumbs up. Tell us interesting facts you know about the topic of this video. See you in new videos.